Enemy worship can be defined as a kind of apologism for the adversaries of a given society. And the adversaries are, of course, defined by the society they oppose. Their antagonism takes the image of the society they oppose. So there are several forms of enemy worship. The first form would be a sort of outward endorsement of a society or civilization's enemies. This is what we see on display with left-wing protesters and left-wing extremist groups like Antifa and other groups that openly praise people like Stalin, some people on the fringe left who praise people like Mao, many who praise people like Fidel Castro, so on and so forth. These are outward endorsements of people that not only despise the United States, but had moral systems, or rather immoral systems, constructed from false premises that oppose the betterment of humanity, that oppose moral excellence, in which no good civil society can exist. Fidel Castro, for example, was an outward Marxist. He had no problem killing dissenters. He had no problem sending dissenters towards their death. He had no respect for human expression. He had no respect for the ability to act towards your own conscience. He had no respect for conscience. All of these things which form the intellectual DNA of America. We have to be incredibly suspicious of any cause that takes us away from a concrete understanding of those in our society whom we are linked with, a concrete understanding of our country and our countrymen, a concrete understanding of what Cicero called the civitas, the commonwealth, the community we exist in. We must be very skeptical of any cause that causes us to fly away from that. We must also be skeptical of any cause that atrophies the principles of our humanity that are important to keep us in a sound state, in a moral state. Enemy worship, my friends, is insidious, it is vile, and it is, I think, one of the greatest internal threats our country faces. And any thinking American should reject it soundly, so that we put, instead of having abstract ideas govern us, we ought to have sound moral principles, we ought to have sound connections in society, and we ought to have sound virtue be our guide, especially when it comes to assessing the quality of certain people who should be in our society and should not be in our society. Once we return to that kind of rational assessment, observation, assessment of these things, I believe enemy worship and its assorted bedfellows will no longer be a threat to society. But so long as we continue to entertain things that may not be sensible or may not necessarily even be good in the name of some cause, then I don't think we can have any moral core to begin with. And enemy worship is in itself one of the few of our problems we should deal with if we ever get to that point.